Have you experienced trauma? Do you struggle to find self-identity? So do I. Today, I'm going to talk about being cut down by narcissists, people with borderline personality disorder, those nasty cluster B personality disorders and such, and how it affects you and how you know yourself. So stay tuned. I'm not going to get anything too technical because I didn't look it up. I just want to speak more from a personal standpoint. One stereotype about INTJs is that we know what we want to do before we're done shitting our pants as toddlers, but this is not always the case. For those who've been following my channel for a while, I am diagnosed with avoidant personality disorder and I may have autism. I'm going to get an evaluation for that next month, so I'll keep you tuned for that. But if you want to learn more about avoidant personality disorder, AvPD, watch up above or down below in the description. Growing up, I'm not going to diagnose them, but I'm pretty sure I know what they do have. My mom and stepdad, they definitely have strong characteristics of cluster B personality disorders. And my mom, well, she died about 6-7 years ago, something like that. I don't remember her definitive type, but she was probably an ESTP, definitely an artisan of some type, maybe an ISFP or ESFP. Really shadow-driven extrovert, I think. Not a very nice person. And my stepdad is an ESFP. Also talked a bit about my batshit crazy dad, my biological dad, who was an ESTP. And batshit crazy, I mean like cut my clothes up with razor blades and yank his own fingernails out with pliers. If you want to hear more about that wonderful stuff, go ahead and watch this video up above. Anyways, having a less than ideal childhood. Growing up, I never really discovered who I was. I was kind of socially isolated. I wasn't allowed to go out and make friends. I wasn't allowed to have hobbies or play sports or join any clubs or organizations. So I never really found out my likes and dislikes, what I'm good at, what I'm bad at. And pretty much any time I did try to apply myself to anything, my mom and stepdad were there to tear me down. Like one day, I just started kindergarten after being isolated for 5 years of my life. And well, that was a blast. One thing that I did find refuge in was I had this big stack of encyclopedias. For those kids watching who don't know what encyclopedias is, they're these books, reference books that kind of were in alphabetical order, and you could find organized information there and learn about it. Pre-internet days, but I kind of found refuge in that. I guess that kind of is a hobby and an interest in its own, but a strange one at least. And I live in a society where they don't value education and knowledge. So while I've heard the term thrown around a lot, I think it more applies to kids in school. I've been talking to a lot of people who are on the gifted spectrum, and there's a stereotype that people fetishize INTJs, that we're all these super smart brainiacs. That's not always the case. I kind of feel that I'm maybe above average at best, but I do have a lot of similarities with the gifted community, I guess you could say. Growing up in school, I got A's and B's without giving much effort. I could have applied myself a lot more, and I was thinking like, why? One day I was thinking like, why didn't I apply myself more? After some thought, I realized I really didn't want the attention. I really didn't want the expectation and the demands made on me. So school was quite easy. Just kind of went through the motions, did the homework, and excelled at it, really. Kind of bit me in the ass when I went to college, though, and I guess this is pretty common with gifted people. They can do the elementary, middle school, high school stuff pretty easy. But when I got to college, I didn't have no clue how to study. I never really studied much before in school. Then I didn't really have the proper habits. Then, we really didn't, if you're gifted or whatever, or in my situation at least, you really didn't learn the proper way to be a student, I guess. And when things did get challenging, you're kind of just left out in the dark. So I kind of resonate with that a lot. Even in college, I still did pretty well, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk about that here and a little bit later in this video. But except math, I pretty much bombed at. But everybody says they're bad at math. There's a saying like nobody's bad at math. Some people just practice it and some people don't. Like when kids are in school, the teachers or your parents will ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And most kids have the answers of like, oh, I want to be a fireman or a police officer or an astronaut. And while it's rare that they actually fulfill those childhood ambitions, usually you kind of know what you want to be when you're growing up. You have an idea, at least. For me, that wasn't the case. I could never figure it out. Never could put my finger quite on it. That's always been kind of a hollow, shallow feeling that's been in me. I am a multiple-time college dropout. I changed my major probably about 6 times at least. I got an associate's degree, but that's not wetting any panties or anything, so who really cares about that? But I am 33 credits away from fulfilling my bachelor's degree in psychology. Even then, big whoop, it's pretty valueless in itself, and it's one of the most popular degrees. But it could get my foot in the door for grad school. It is a competitive major, so I guess we'll see. At least I can graduate and get this degree and show something for my 50 plus K dollars I have in student loan debt. But I did find this program that's through the state here in Arizona. I think it has federal funding. It's probably around the whole country in the US. It's called vocational rehab. Basically, it helps people with disabilities get and obtain and sustain jobs, meaningful employment. For me, I said I wanted to be a case manager, and that usually requires a bachelor's degree, even though I was a case manager before and didn't have a bachelor's degree. That's just kind of what I said I wanted to do to kind of, to get a free education, basically, or free enough, because like I said, I have a shit ton of debt. So originally when I started this content, which I formerly called the INTJ equation, now it's Traumatype, and I also have another channel, Astrotype, and all this stuff that resonates right now with me is in my birth chart. I also started another side project with Xeon, who's been on this channel multiple times, called Astrotype. We look at birth charts, evolutionary astrology, and we're kind of picking out where you can see the cognitive functions and finding type. Imagine finding out somebody's personality type, when they're born. Not like some CSJ dumb shit where you type your kid while he's in the womb. We're not going that woo-woo or that narcissistic, I guess you could say. But I started this probably about 3 or 4 years ago originally as a blog because I was too afraid to get in front of a camera. Then it kind of morphed into a YouTube channel and like my college career, if you want to call it that. It's just been stop and go. I quit for a while and I come back. Just like I'm almost 39. I'll be 39 in August and it's June right now. And I've just been kind of treading water my whole life, trying to keep my head up above, not really getting anywhere, unfortunately. INTJs are considered see it through types, according to Linda Behrens and her theory of interaction styles, meaning that, in a nutshell, that we have a really incredibly hard time starting things, but once we get started or we pick up a already started project, we can finish it quite easily. While this is true for me for the most part, I would say things like school is pretty difficult. I'm really ambivalent about it, I guess, because, like the whole cliche, like, oh, TE users respect credentials and degrees and experts, and TI users don't. But that's not always the case. That's just a stereotype, I guess, what you want to call it. But yeah, I always had this ambivalence, like, well, we have the internet now. Do I really need to go to grad school and become a psychologist? I can do this on my own. Do I really need to do this? I mean, is it really that important anymore? I mean, school is just a system to keep you in debt slavery, basically. They just give you a little bigger piece of the pie, maybe, with an education. But I don't know. Like I said, I can get it for free. I might as well finish the rest of it. I only have like 11 classes. Usually I'm good at finishing things, but like I said, school is a challenge and certain things are a challenge. I think that's due to being stuck in your ENTP shadow. INTJs and ENTPs kind of have the same functions, but different extroverted and introverted. Like we're introverted intuitive heroes and ENTPs are extroverted intuitive heroes, and we reflect differently in the shadow. So I guess when we're stuck in our shadow mode, we're like get things going types, which ENTPs are. They compulsively start things and they don't finish. I think I'm kind of stuck in that conundrum personally. I remember when I was probably in my senior year, I was talking to my grandpa, who I had a good relationship with, and he definitely had his own flaws. He was an unhealthy ESTP, but we got along, and one of the very few people that I got along with as a kid. And he asked me what I wanted to do in college, and I had an inkling when I was probably about 17 to do psychology, and it just took one little comment to kind of deter me, and it's just something that I regret. There's somebody who emailed me. I haven't responded to him yet, like kind of how you control your SI demon. And well, I let that one little comment screw with me for almost 20 years. I went in college and I changed my major over and over. And here I am floating around aimlessly in life. If I didn't listen to that one stupid little comment that SI demon was just ruminating over it. I could have been 20 plus years ahead right now, and who knows, I could have been a PhD. I could be doing research right now. My life could be different, but I don't think I was in the correct mindset at that age to finish really any kind of degree. I guess it's not all a loss. I do want to share this quote from Carl Jung. Life really does begin at 40. Up until then, you're just doing research. Kind of interesting because Carl Jung kind of had a linear path because I read his autobiography. He kind of him-hawed about what he wanted to do in school, but he figured out he wanted to be a psychiatrist pretty young and did it within his 20s, and he was practicing. But I guess I need to reread that book and kind of what it meant to him, what exactly happened around 40 that propelled him into his life, I guess. Kind of an interesting quote. One of my favorites from him: just years of being torn down by narcissistic borderline people. They would just call me stupid, call me crazy, call me weird. That's one reason why I suspect I'm autistic. I couldn't get a shred of self-confidence, basically. I didn't believe in myself whatsoever. And I lost my self-identity. And if this resonates with you, if you have a similar story, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. You're going to be free eventually. If you're a kid watching this, you're a minor, and you have to deal with parents or family members who are not very supportive. And just find help. You can free yourself. It just takes a lot of work. I recently went on a camping trip that I went on last year, pretty much at the same spot. And it was nice to have a slower set pace. After that camping trip last year, I wanted to pretty much live in an RV full time, but just right after I got back, I pretty much talked myself out of it. There'd be a lot of challenges and tribulations to it, but imagine just living in a tiny home on wheels, basically, and being able to go where you want. I have to have a job and stuff like that, of course, so I'll be restricted somewhat, but living in a really small area with a kid with ADHD is going to be pretty tough. And if you want to watch that video I did last year, I went camping and had some thoughts on this, go ahead and watch above or down below. But anyways, I came back from the camping trip. It's like a poor man's vacation, what I pretty much call it. I love camping, and I'd rather go camping than like the beach or Disneyland or some amusement park where you have to just funnel money to them for stupid little SI memories, I guess. Instead of coming back refreshed, recharged, I came back anxious and depressed. Kind of did this last year too. I just don't really want to be where I'm at. But, it's kind of like the grass is always greener on the other side. So again, even at, approaching 40, I still can't really find myself. I sat down last night, whatever you want to call it, and kind of wrote down my goals. In 1 year, I definitely want to lose some weight. I want to be almost finished with school. I think I can knock it out in a year, maybe a year and a half, get my bachelor's degree. Within 2 years, I want to have like a motorhome or a camp trailer and a truck and be ready to go and take that step for, I guess, freedom. And, if I want to pack up and go, I probably won't like my neighbors anyways. I'll have that option, at least to an extent. And by 3 years, I hope to be in grad school. I know it's ultra competitive with psychology. Like I said, it's one of the most popular majors. And congratulations to Ben Nebeva. He's an INTJ that I interviewed on my channel. He actually got accepted into a grad school in Hawaii, so that's pretty awesome, I think. So hopefully I stick with these goals that I wrote down. There's another exercise, Tim Ferriss, who's an INTJ, called fear setting. I haven't done that in a while. Talking to Gen X Jeff, who's gifted in on the autism spectrum himself, he brought up a term called imposter syndrome. I heard of imposter syndrome before, never really looked into it, and basically it pretty much just parallels what I'm saying in this video. You don't feel genuine, you don't feel complete when you try to do something, aspire to do something. You feel like you're an imposter, basically. You feel like you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not equipped enough, you're not experienced enough. And trying to be a YouTuber or trying to go to grad school or trying to become a PhD, I definitely feel that way, just because I think it all comes down to a lack of self-confidence, a lack of self-identity. And I think I'm going through like a midlife existential crisis. My life's basically half over and I really have nothing to show for it. I know INTJs, we're pretty notorious for beating ourselves up, and that's what I'm doing, kind of kicking myself in the nuts here. So I'll be starting school soon, probably in August. It actually starts right on my birthday. Yay, happy birthday to me. And I don't know what the future of this channel is going to look like. I'm sure I'll do a little bit here and there, release a video here and there, but it probably won't be as often as I'm doing it now, but I do want to keep it going some shape or form. So there may be some moments where I don't release content regularly, but I'll try my best. If you want to check out other vlogs that I've done, just go ahead and check out this playlist here. I would really appreciate it if you like and share, subscribe. This content might get me motivated, keep it going. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.